to introduce you to each one of the crew members, we'll take a look at a video piece right now. This is Mission Control Houston.
The permanent crew on the International Space Station is about to undergo a dramatic change with the addition of 3 new crew members, the first ever Flight Engineers 3, 4, and 5. Roman Romanenko is a lieutenant colonel in Russia's Air Force and a first-time space flyer. He was born in the Moscow region and grew up in Star City because his father was assigned there. Cosmonaut Yuri Romanenko flew in space 3 times while Roman was between ages 6 and 16. Years when the son decided he wanted to be a pilot, but not to be in the reflected spotlight.
All of us, children of cosmonauts, were in the center of attention, so it was difficult in that respect. But we got used to it, and we tried to use every opportunity to leave the Star City so as to escape this environment, just to be regular people somewhere else.
Romanenko moved on to military college in Leningrad to start his career as a jet fighter pilot.
This is the first stage of military training. It instills discipline and various qualities required for military life. The uniform was an additional bonus. A young man in the uniform turned heads, and I was proud to be wearing that uniform.
After flight school, he was assigned to a fighter squadron in the Ukraine. But the breakup of the Soviet Union left him co-piloting cargo transports, and that spurred him to look for a new job. 10 years after his father's last spaceflight, Romanenko returned to Star City as a member of Russia's Cosmonaut Corps.
I think it's normal for humans to feel the need to explore the unknown. I believe every person has the adventurous streak, and the same is true for us. We chose our job because we wanted to do something that has not been done before by anybody.
Dr. Bob Thirsk was inspired by the adventure of the Apollo flights. Born in the Vancouver suburb of New Westminster, British Columbia, Thirsk was a teenager when Americans started flying to the moon.
I was in awe of the missions as well as the astronauts. In particular, I can remember Apollo missions 8, 11, and 13. I would go to the school library and I'd flip through those National Geographics, through the Life magazines, and get up early in the morning to watch the launches on TV.
Thirsk developed a love of exploration and adventure growing up in British Columbia, Alberta, and Manitoba. After high school, he headed to the University of Calgary, where he earned a bachelor's in mechanical engineering. He credits the next steps in his career to the encouragement of one of his professors.
He noticed that I had this dream of doing something different, something challenging in my life. So he gave me some good advice to consider further engineering degrees and even a medical degree. That's what I did.
2 years later, he finished a master's in mechanical engineering at MIT, then earned a doctorate of medicine at McGill University in Montreal. He was doing his residency in family medicine a year later when fate intervened in the form of a newspaper ad.
Canada, during the first recruitment of astronauts, placed an ad in all the major newspapers across Canada saying that they were now starting an astronaut program. They were looking for people with these kind of qualifications. And I looked at the qualifications that they were looking for. I realized that I had a lot of that. And these dreams that I had of being an astronaut when I followed the careers of John Glenn and Neil Armstrong came flooding back to me. So my application was in the next day.
Thirsk was selected in the first group of Canadian astronauts in 1983, and he flew as a payload specialist on the Life and Microgravity Space Lab shuttle mission in 1996. The Canadian Space Agency assigned him to train with the NASA astronaut class of 1998, and then in 2004 assigned him to the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center, where he completed certification as a Soyuz spacecraft flight engineer. Belgian Air Force Colonel Frank de Winne was born in Ghent, Belgium, less than 2 weeks after Yuri Gagarin's spaceflight. But the idea of becoming an astronaut didn't hit him until he was in his 20s. After finishing at the Royal School of Cadets in Lier, De Winne earned a master's degree in telecommunications and civil engineering from the Royal Military Academy in Brussels. He completed pilot training with the Belgian Air Force 2 years later.
And when I was still in school learning for engineering, but also already in the military as a pilot, I saw for the first time the space shuttle fly to space. And then it's when it really said, one day I also want to do that. And that's where the dream started.
De Winne flew operationally before becoming a test pilot in 1992, the year he first applied to the European Space Agency's astronaut program. He later spent time on detachment to Edwards Air Force Base in California, working on the update to the F-16. Was later senior test pilot in the Belgian Air Force, and was a squadron commander during NATO's Operation Allied Force in Yugoslavia in 1999. De Winne joined ESA's astronaut corps in 2000, began training in Russia in 2001, and in 2002 flew to the International Space Station as flight engineer on the first flight of the new model Soyuz TMA spacecraft.
If we look to the past, what we see is whenever people have explored, whenever they have gone beyond the current frontiers, it has always brought great advancements to humanity. And I'm sure if we continue to do that, we will find things that will shape the world of tomorrow. And I'm happy to be part of that.
This is Mission Control Houston. Again, that was a look at the members of Expedition 20 that will be launching on May 27th from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. That launch will take place at 5:34 a.m. Central Time. They'll dock with the International Space Station on May 29th. We'll have live coverage here on NASA television of all those events. And for the latest information, you can always access